In a nationwide broadcast to usher in New Year 2021, President Buhari promises to reorganize and re-energize nation's security apparatus.
The year 2021 will indeed be a year where we will work to reinforce the hopes of fellow Nigerians.
Nigeria's armed forces review operations in 2020.
We will continue to sustain the offensive and will not relent until peace is restored to every troubled zone in Nigeria.
Work on Second Niger Bridge continues despite COVID-19 to meet completion date of February 2022.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall discuss President Buhari's New Year broadcast, 2021 Appropriation Act, and later takeoff of single African market.
Well, Claire, it's all new today.
If you ask me, I looked to the sky, I didn't see any change. I looked in the atmosphere, I didn't see any change. I looked around us, I didn't really see any change between today and yesterday. But of course, it's all in the numbers.
January 1, okay, 01012021 today. Today marks the beginning of a new year in the life of Nigerians and the nation as we enter the 1st of January 2021 in the Gregorian calendar.
Of course, and just to add that there are other calendars, but this, as Nadabo says, is the Gregorian calendar, and it is a new year. The year here in this part of the world, in Nigeria specifically, was ushered in with a number of church services termed crossover, special worships, and of course special supplications for a blissful and prosperous year 2021. Yusuf, in other parts of the world, just this morning, a few hours ago, in New York, New York, exited 2020 and celebrated New Year. Different parts of the world even celebrated New Year yesterday.
Much earlier yesterday.
Yes, much earlier yesterday.
Yes.
But the event has been very, very marshaled, very regimented. Of course, we all know the reason why.
And you know why people are doing that? It's a new year. 2020 is gone. And what has become a tradition, Claire, the number one citizen in the country usually makes a broadcast to the nation as part of his new year message with assurance of better things to come.
All right. Yusuf, indeed, the president just spoke to us, to Nigerians, a few moments ago. He started off by congratulating Nigerians for witnessing the beginning of this year, 2021, despite all the challenges, and the fact that we could make it to this year showed the resilience of all Nigerians and the nation as well.
And of course, in the broadcast, President Buhari described the year 2020 as one of the most trying years since our existence as a nation due to the challenges posed on our collective humanity by the novel COVID-19 pandemic. And that's all over the world, Claire. Everybody faced that. Yeah,
that's why I said earlier on that ordinarily, the tradition in some parts of the world, especially in New York, Times Square, it's usually a very elaborate celebration with fireworks, a lot of artists, singing, but it wasn't so. And that was because of the, regimented procedure and measures just to forestall spread of COVID-19. But back to the president's speech, he particularly identified 2020 as a year that came with a lot of challenges. And, you can't but mention security and economic issues, which of course cut across all the states. And in addition, of course, to the end SARS protest.
Really.
Yes, and
the president also said, and I quote him really, your voice has been heard and we would continue to listen to you and all the key stakeholders who are committed to the unity of Nigeria to ensure that every region of this nation is safe for us all, while guaranteeing that the future is also secured for the coming generation. That's for the youth of this country.
That means a lot to the youth.
It does.
The fact that we will continue to listen to you. I'm sure whoever is watching, will take that to heart, that the president is saying, look, we will continue to listen to you. And there are quite a number of, promises he made in the speech. And again, he promised to remain unshaken in his genuine, and I'd like you to take note of that, genuine commitment to the people of Nigeria, which he has always emphasized, especially the youth, whose future, he says, must be effectively secured for sustainable growth and development of the country.
And clear, one significant area that is of concern to all of us is the issue of security. And the president also touched it in his broadcast. And again, he promised to reorganize and indeed re-energize the nation's security apparatus towards engaging, pushing back and dismantling the operations of all criminal groups threatening national security and civic well-being in this country.
Yes, so you and I talked about this earlier on, just before we came on set. And we mentioned that the issue of security was very, very, at the heart of the president. And he has said that he used some words: reorganize, re-energize, and acknowledge the fact that they were proactive with the case of Kankara students. But again, the capacity of the forces, including the police, needs to be re-energized and, beefed up. So he also says that, we will continue to enhance collaboration among the three arms of government to effectively fight corruption. That's in the area of corruption. Enhance economy and security in the country. So what role should all Nigerians play to keep Nigeria on a forward march? Now, these are some of the issues we intend to tackle as we take our first issue, which will be the New Year presidential broadcast. That will be in a short while. Yusuf.
And clear, but that is not the only issue for discuss in the 3-hour edition. Don't forget we're having 3 hours today. That's why I say everything is new.
Yeah, indeed. It is a special edition. It is a special
edition for 2021. In our 3-hour edition of the program, we are also going to look at the 2021 Appropriation Act and the takeoff of the single African market. We say Happy New Year to all Nigerians and wishing everybody prosperous New Year. I am Yusuf Nadabu Usman saying welcome to this special edition of Good Morning Nigeria. And indeed, of course, the other time you got me hicked up.
I'm listening.
And of course, you infected me. And I think I should get through to you today. I think let me sing a song for you and for all Nigerians.
All right. Yes. Listening? I hope our newscaster, come forward. I hope you're listening because he's already in the studio. Yes.
All Nigerians. Let me say.
Okay, go ahead. I'll provide you with the beats.
Right. Only last night I had a dream. Something good gonna happen to me. Only Claire just cooked for me. Some good nice stew for us. And that is to say, we are to have a beautiful year.
Wow! I need to correct that before somebody comes for me.
What?
I didn't cook for him. I didn't cook for him. But indeed, it's on a very beautiful note. We welcome you. It's a brand new day here in Nigeria and all over the world, I want to believe. So if you have old things you want to take away, please put them in the can. All things are passed away. 2020 is gone and gone down the history. This is 2021. We're not promising. I don't want to make predictions. No, we won't do that. But my name is Claire Delabo Abdul Razak, and it's our pleasure from all of us here to welcome you to the brand new edition of Good Morning Nigeria, this first 01012021.
Yeah, as usual, we have our complimentary segments, including the newspaper review, business news, and others. And let's now join Comfort Amadu for morning news. Good morning, Comfort. Well, I mean, did you hear the song? Really, Comfort? I saw you just shaking your
what you don't know is that Comfort is a singer. So she's going to give us a rendition. Comfort, please let's hear the beautiful sonorous voice.
All right, we'll do that much later. Let's talk news now. Good morning, Happy New Year. President Muhammadu Buhari has promised to remain unshaken in his genuine commitment to the people of Nigeria, especially the youth, whose future, he said, must effectively be secured for sustainable growth and development of the country. In a nationwide broadcast to usher in the new year 2021, the president also promised to reorganize and re-energize the nation's security apparatus towards engaging, pushing back and dismantling the operations of all criminal groups threatening national security and civic well-being.
will indeed be a year where we will work to reinforce the hopes of fellow Nigerians in the vision of a united and progressive Nigeria. As your elected president, I will play my part fully and without fear or favor.
And President Muhammadu Buhari has also applauded the outgoing president of Niger Republic, Mahamadou Issoufou, and the citizens of the country for the peaceful and successful conduct of the last presidential and parliamentary elections. This was while granting audience to the head of the ECOWAS election observation mission to the neighboring country, Nigerian's former vice president, Mohamed Namadi Sambo. The new infection of COVID-19 has continued to increase with 1,031 new cases in Nigeria. The new figure released by NCDC shows that Lagos has the highest with 570, followed by the FCT with 117, and Kaduna with 109, Nasarawa 34, Bauchi 31, Kano 28, Plateau and Sokoto states have 26 each. Other states are 25 in Ogun, 18 in Edo, 16 in Rivers, 10 in Abia, 7 in Imo, and 6 in Taraba, while Delta and Osun states have 4 new cases each. Nigeria now has 87,510 confirmed, with 73,713 discharged, while 1,284 died of the virus. The race to develop an effective and safe COVID-19 vaccine is gaining ground in many parts of the world. Joyce Omitu reports that 34 countries have rolled out COVID-19 vaccines and started administering doses to contain the spread of virus. Away from that, the armed forces of Nigeria have between 18th March and 30th December 2020 neutralized 2,403 criminal elements across the country. And this is in addition to scores of other terrorists and armed bandits killed strikes during the period. Coordinator Defense Media Operations Major General John Enenche disclosed this at an end-of-year media briefing in Abuja.
16,000 for DPK, among others. And then, yes, it is good to point out here that 1,910 criminals were arrested, majority of them under investigation, and at the end of the investigations, some appropriate judicial processes have commenced, and others will commence on completion of investigation, of which we always fully.
And despite the coronavirus pandemic that ravaged all sectors of the economy in the year 2020, there is still light at the end of the tunnel as the federal government is not relenting on the steady work at the second Niger Bridge to ensure the completion date of February 2022 is met.
I am coming from Ondo State. When I come, I spend no less than 2 hours and here before I can cross this bridge. Even if federal government can be seeing all these things, they should help the travelers at least to speed up the second Niger Bridge.
When they built that first bridge, they thought it was too much. Now it's not enough. And that's how I think you should look at infrastructure. But you build it once and you hope that you never have to go back to it again.
That's the morning news highlight. Good morning, Nigeria. Continue shortly with Claire and Nadabo after this break. Happy New Year.
A scorecard like no other. Government has put in place measures and initiatives principally targeted at youths, women, and the most vulnerable groups in our society. These included broad plan to lift 100 million Nigerians out of poverty in the next 10 years, the creation of 75 billion Naira National Youth Investment Fund to provide opportunities for the youths, and the Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises Survivor Fund, through which government is A. Paying 3-month salaries of the staff of 100,000 micro, small and medium enterprises. B. Paying for the registration of 250,000 businesses at the Corporate Affairs Commission. C. Giving a grant of 30,000 naira to 100,000 artisans and guaranteeing market for the product of traders. These are in addition to many other initiatives such as farmer money, trader money, market money, N-Power, N-Tech, and N-Agro. These and more in spite of a recession and a global pandemic. Although social media as a channel of communication is inherently harmless, it becomes harmful and damaging when used without discretion and thoughtfulness. Bad social media users spread rumors and fake news without verification. But good social media users stop, reflect, and verify information before sharing it. Be a good social media user. Stop the spread of fake news. Verify the authenticity of your source and use social media responsibly for a better Nigeria. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, in collaboration with the National Orientation Agency. The Council of Our Fathers.
My advice to these young people is please do not take us back to those harrowing days. You probably do not know what it is.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
Life can be very eventful. We curiously expect things to happen, even when we don't know what. Our human nature makes us like and repost lots of information. Some are unverified, inciting anger and hate. Sometimes innocently, other times the urge to break it first. This, in most cases, has caused destruction in many nations.
Hotspur ended 2020 in a slump, but will their fortunes change when they take on Leeds United in their first game of 2021 on Saturday? It's Tottenham versus Leeds United on the Premier League Live, showing on the NTA network from 1 p.m. The Premier League Live is brought to you by Axis Bank, Bye Jebu, Lipton, and Close Up in association with Goal.com.
All right, we're in a very different mood this morning, and the reason is not far-fetched, but newspaper review is up next, and you'll get to see Bayo in his New Year attire.
Oh, well, as usual, Bayo is here, and it's Happy New Year first, let me say so.
Thank you, singing Nadago.
Indeed.
So you heard me sing.
I'll book for the first copy of when the album is out.
No, but you have to consult Bongo Zico first.
Yes. No, that's what I'm saying. I hope Bongo Zico will forgive me for just borrowing some of his lyrics anyway.
Good morning, Happy New Year.
Oh, yeah.
I heard you talk about the New Year.
Yes.
Yes. As you make your bed, so shall you lie. So at the outset of the year, make your bed very well. Make your plans very well so that you will have a prosperous.
Wow, you're looking. I like your color combination. I mean.
Thank you very much.
They say men don't do colors.
Don't eat into my review time. Let's go ahead with the review.
All right, so let's start off. Yusuf.
Okay, let's get going with the Daily Trust for a start. And then the story is right under the mast here is we killed 2,403 Boko Haram bandits, others in 2020, says the military. And details of that is going to be given on page 6. And Buhari will work to restore hope, still on page 6. Brexit, what you need to know about the UK leaving the EU. That's going to be far into the newspaper on page 46. The main story undoubtedly should be about the budget, I believe, and that's what the Daily Trust text here, but it's taking a little other dimension. It says 2021, experts worry over low IGR as states budget 8.3 trillion naira. And the riders are capital projects to gulp 4.3 trillion naira, salaries 4.3 trillion naira, and in 4 trillion that is, and then Cross River drops to 277.7 billion naira from 1.1 trillion. You get details of that on page 4, and Buhari signs federal budget, Finance Act, details on page 10. Now you have graphs here that, depicts all these things, and at a glance you can see states and then their own budgets and the rest of them. But down below, you find Forex ban on 42 import items remains as AFCFTA begins today. January 1, there is an open market for Africa, and it takes effect today. At the bottom, hurdles trail electricity metering for 5 million consumers. Details on page 22. Kaduna Sex Party, police parade organizers, hotel demolished. That's on page 37. And Kano women protest over missing children. You get the details of that on page 38. Clear?
Yes, Yusuf, I think it was both of us when said today we tried to make sense of what was going to happen with the start of the single African market. That's the African Free Continental Trade Agreement. And we were wondering whether it would mean if you're an entrepreneur, if you are a business person, and you have exportable, product or goods, you could now do business across bar. But I think beyond that, there is much more than meets the eyes. Bayo, I wouldn't take much of your time, so I'll just quickly look at The Nation. Or you want to respond? No, let me quickly take The Nation.
Yes.
And The Nation is leading with the excerpts from the presidential broadcast that you heard on the network service just a few minutes ago. And it says, Buhari government to reorganize security apparatus and personnel. That's the lead story. And I'm sure later today it will also be the lead story going around the social media. Now, there are also another excerpt. President promises secure future for the youth in New Year Day broadcast. That's also one that will, generate discussions. And then just below that, you'll find highlights of the president's broadcast this morning. In the New Year broadcast, it's also there. And to the other column, that's to the right or to the left of your screens. Why 2021 budget is critical, and you really want to find out details of that. The story continues on page 4, and you could see the picture story is that of the president. That's just a little below the nameplate. The president, the finance minister, the secretary to the government of the federation, the vice president, and of course the leadership of the National Assembly, all there watching the president, put pen to paper on the appropriation bill that is now Appropriation Act 2021. And just a little bit above, just above the nameplate, Nigeria's debt hit 32.223 trillion naira, says DMO, and that's Debts Management Office. States should raise revenue. And that's the rider there. Now, weapons are being ferried into Nigeria on camels. ACF alleges. You can find the details of that on page 5. And last but certainly not the least is, of course, the New Year Day as celebrated in the United Arab Emirates, welcoming the world into 2021. And that picture, of course, is the Burj Khalifa in Dubai. Though not really captured here, but it is a spectacular scene to behold, during, New Year celebrations. Bayo?
Yes, indeed, sitting at home and doing a crossover into the New Year, it was a spectacular scene, watching fireworks from New Zealand to Japan, to South Korea, to Australia, the Tower Bridge in Australia, and all across to Burj Khalifa, as you have mentioned. It is captivating. Some are still celebrating.
Indeed.
Some are still doing that.
At the last hour.
You know what was most captivating for me? Was the Big Ben sounding,
yes.
Strike giving us the time.
Yes.
The very accurate time.
Yes.
The time
Were it not for the fourth year level of COVID-19, people who have been there counting along with Big Ben.
Waiting for it to just hit the 12 midnight, target.
But the president has identified that the year 2020 was a tough year. It tested our resilience as a nation and our ability to survive. And he has a promise that his administration will work to restore hope. He says that the challenges we have in the nation will be faced head-on, and priorities which cover area of security, economy, and anti-corruption will be faced with effective responsibility to protect lives and property. He says some may see the progress that have been registered as not being fast enough. He said they desire the best for our nation, and that is why they hope. And he said we must reinvest hope in our nation. He called for Nigerian spirit of can do and will do to get our nation to desired destination. Yesterday, the president signed the budget, and while signing the budget, he said that the budget is to pursue an expansionist fiscal policy intended to accelerate economic recovery process to rescue the economy from the recession. We know our nation went into recession, and we need to get out of recession very quickly. The budget is to promote social inclusion and strengthen the resilience of the economy. Minister is expected to give the breakdown of the details of the budget. Meanwhile, the executive arm, where he says, will examine the budget that has been passed by the National Assembly. Where amendments or amendments or adjustments are necessary, such will be made and sent back to the National Assembly. However, he said, in spite of the adverse effect of COVID-19 for the year 2020, the implementation of the capital budget for 2020 went as far as 89.1%, and the 2020 budget performance was 97.7%. So you can imagine if we had not had any COVID-19, we probably would have been able to scale everything over. The story Nada will read about Nigeria's debt. The Debt Management Office says that Nigeria's debt as of September this year stood at 32.2 trillion naira, and in dollar terms, this is equivalent to 84.57 billion. The report shows that the federal government debt is 28 trillion, while all states of the federation, 36 states, and the FCT, they have a share of 4.19 trillion, and the domestic debt of this component is 20 trillion, that is about 62.18%, while the foreign debt is about 12.2 trillion, which is 37.82%. There's the story that you read about a house being demolished in Kaduna.
Yes, the sex party. I was actually...
Yes, Kaduna state government demolished the building because some young men put up an advertisement that they were going to hold a sex party and was meant for 27th of December. They gave a notice indicating that participants, both male and female, are expected to be in their birthday suits. That is to say, they should come there naked. The party was to start at 8 p.m. till daybreak, and participants who were interested were to be allowed to have intercourse. They were to pay 2,000 naira for popular side, 3,000 or 5,000 for executive VIP. The Kaduna state government was embarrassed and they detailed the police to trace and find out the place immediately. Kaduna State Police Command tracked them and arrested some persons. Yesterday, Kaduna State Urban Planning Development Agency, Kasubda, demolished the venue and Asha structure that, with the label Asha that is based in Sabon Tesha. The Kasubda says that they did that because the agency's power allows it to demolish any structure that is used for any other purposes other than for which it has a certificate of occupancy.
That sounds good enough to end the year with, really. Kaduna State government's decision, having to demolish that place and then really send a strong signal
and guess
to,
what?
to Eddie.
The proposer said that it was only a joke.
Yes, because that's what I was going to read out.
He said it was a joke, and he put it on the social media.
He
said, he didn't know how it went on circulating and find its way into Twitter.
Bayo, so, he said, you know, it started as a joke between me and his friend. I said, I never posted a party invite on Twitter. I initiated it. I started it as a joke. I kept saying it. It was not meant to disturb the peace and security of Kaduna. But for heaven's sake, how could you have thought about such a thing? Can't you deploy your ingenuity to other, positive, ideas? And then the owner of the structure, I'm wondering, was he aware of the use to which that, facility was to be put?
Well, because he vicarious liability.
Exactly.
No, had it been allowed to go on without any action by the authorities, wouldn't people react? Wouldn't participants come? Wouldn't people look for it? These are the questions the person talking or the guy should really know. A joke cannot be a joke like that.
Yes, I'm concerned with the facility, the owner of the facility. If he was complicit, then, no apologies. Yes, but if he wasn't...
Well, those details are not there. But the fact remains that sometimes some of our people take our freedom and liberty too much for granted.
Yeah, because sometimes they could also be, that's what I'm saying. If the owner of this structure is complicit in this act, then he should bear the consequences.
Sometimes our freedom, our liberty, which we take too much liberty of in this country, is our problem. If you go across the border in Benin Republic there or Niger there, a policeman will blow a whistle, you dare not move.
And that is why sometimes when you look at federal government's move to deregulate the social media, it has some great sense there, and of course making some big, reasonable meaning into what it wants to do.
No, the social media, no doubt, is a veritable tool, very useful. But in the hands of dubious persons, it can be abused. Just only yesterday, the EFCC arrested about 12 young men in a place in Lekki. What have they been doing? Using the internet to defraud people. Among the things they recovered from there were 12 vehicles, laptops, and other things. So the social media itself is not the bad thing. It is the use to which people put it.
Bayo, I won't let you go. I want us to look at this budget thing. That is one worrisome thing there, which worrisome in quotes anyway. When people go through it and see the breakdown, you see it says current expenditure 5.64 trillion, and then capital expenditure 4.125 trillion, and debt servicing 3.324 trillion. Now, on the surface, one would think that that's going to too much really to service just debts alone.
Yusuf, you know what I will crave indulgence to allow Bayo to speak to, because this is part of the issue we're going to discuss. You know, Bayo.
The simple explanation is
we're going to discuss it on
it's not too far-fetched. If you take a loan, you have a commitment to pay that loan you have taken. You don't turn around and say we want the debt to be forgiven. Therefore, the loans that have been taken for infrastructure, there is a program, and annually a component of the budget will go for servicing that budget.
And you must be consistent.
Of course.
In drawing back on your debt
That is
profile.
commitment.
Bayo, weapons, just one last 30 seconds.
Yes, camels.
Yes.
Yes.
That's a
it is the Arewa Consultative Forum, the chairman, Audu Ogbe, that raised the alarm. And he was informed by members of ACF from Sokoto and Zamfara. And the fact is that armaments are getting across from the border. And since it's coming from Sokoto and Zamfara, it's likely to be from across Niger border. And these armaments include rocket-propelled grenade and rocket launchers for anti-aircrafts. And he said the security men are oblivious of it, or rather, they refuse to check these cameras when these things move across. Similarly, Governor of Oyo State, he was at Shaki. Shaki is a border town between Benin Republic and Nigeria. And he raised alarm that bandits from Mali are coming into Nigeria from that border side.
Okay, Bayo, well, you have had your time full.
I hear you.
So it's a New Year gift.
3 hours. So I was hoping today at least I will get 45 minutes of that 3 hours.
You've got too much, and that's good enough, really.
Indeed, do you know some of your viewers do call for an expansion of your time? Well, Bayo,
Really?
have a good day, Bayo. Please have a beautiful New Year celebration.
Happy New Year, Bayo. See you next week.
Let's keep you on hold. We'll be right back.
The counsel of our fathers.
I will urge and advise our younger generation to use talent and brain to sort out problems, not arms.
Nigerian youths, let's build our nation together.
Dear customer, link your Airtel number to your national identification number today. Here are easy ways you can do it. Dial *121*1# on your Airtel line and follow the prompts on the screen. Type in your 11-digit government-approved NIN number. You will receive a confirmation message to confirm your entry. You can also visit www.airtel.com.ng/NIN to link your phone number to your NIN. If you do not know your NIN, simply dial *346# to get it. No stress, no wahala.
Airtel, the smartphone network. Kehinde suffers from indigestion. His twin Tayi suffers from heartburn. Sometimes it's the other way around, or both. That's why they use Gaviscon Double Action. It soothes within 3 minutes and lasts for up to 4 hours. For double relief from heartburn and indigestion, Gaviscon Double Action.
As the countdown to the new year begins, we here at NTA cannot help but look back on a challenging year that has been filled with many lessons. The most important of all being a renewed gratitude for the continued support of our sponsors, our clients, government at all levels, corporate bodies, advertisers, religious bodies, civil society groups, political parties, businesses and manufacturers, and you, the viewers. As we cross the finish line together, the celebration of new beginnings would simply be incomplete without you there. And we look forward to sharing the coming year with you. Here's to an excellent year ahead.
Nigerian youths are about the greatest assets the country has at the moment. It is therefore not surprising that the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari is strategically responding to the yearnings of the youth through multiple projects and programs. Youth Entrepreneurship Support Years by Bank of Industry, the Youth Investment Fund by the CBN, and several other conditional cash transfer programs. Recruitment of 774,000 social workers, majority of whom are youths, and so many other projects that are beneficial to youths directly or indirectly. If the administration can do all this, definitely with a degree of patience and time, it can achieve more. Nigerian youths must come together to say no to terrorism, no to vandalism, and no to all disruptive tendencies. #Youth for Greater Nigeria, pacifying the youths, unifying the nation.
These days, people get their news and information from more media sources than ever before. Some of the news and information given are fake, unverified, doctored, and manufactured to create confusion, stir disaffection, and cause disunity. Before you believe or share any news, ask yourself, is this real? Is it from a credible source? Is it verified or verifiable? Fake news is dangerous, whether you do it for fun or for political gains. Real people can get hurt. Fake news, don't create it, don't spread it.
This is a public service announcement from NTA.
Tottenham Hotspur ended 2020 in a slump, but will their fortunes change when they take on Leeds United in their first game of 2021 on Saturday? It's Tottenham versus Leeds United on the Premier League Live, showing on the NTA network from 1 p.m. The Premier League Live is brought to you by Axis Bank, Babai Jebu, Lipton, and Close Up in association with Goal.com.
All right, welcome back. You're watching Good Morning Nigeria. It's a special edition this New Year Day 2021. I almost said 2020. No, never again. Never again. Never again. Never again. 2020 is gone. So let's begin our conversation with a backgrounder put together by Adamo Sambo, and that's on the presidential broadcast.
The year 2021 will indeed be a year where we will work to reinforce the hopes of fellow Nigerians in the vision of a united and progressive Nigeria.
To achieve this, President Muhammadu Buhari said his administration would continue focusing on delivering key strategic priorities under the security, economy, as well as the anti-corruption agenda.
As your elected president, I will play my part fully and without fear or favor. I invite all of us to do the same. It is what we owe to the founding generation of our beloved country and also to the coming generation. It is what we desire for national prosperity for all demands.
Describing the youth as the nation's most valuable natural resource, the president promised to ensure that their entrepreneurial drive is fully supported and encouraged.
Their ingenuity, creativity, innovation, and entrepreneurial spirit is evident to all. We will partner with the legislature to develop an enabling environment to turn their passions into ideas that can be supported, groomed, and scaled across regions.
The year 2020, President Buhari acknowledged, was not only a tough one for the country, but also put to test the national resilience and abilities, saying, however, that Nigeria will indeed survive and thrive.
As your elected president and commander-in-chief, I would ensure that these ongoing challenges will be faced head-on with renewed determination and with all the appropriateness and urgency required. Your voices have been heard, and we will continue to listen to you and all the key stakeholders who are committed to the unity of Nigeria to ensure that every region of this nation is safe for us all.
And with the recent reopening of the nation's borders, expectations are that the pent-up demand of legitimate cross-border and international trade will boost the fortunes of the many small businesses and agricultural enterprises.
The message to our West African neighbors is that Nigeria is once again fully open for those willing to conduct business in a fair and equitable way. On the anti-corruption drive of our administration, we have recorded substantial gains so far, and this year we are committed to continuing along the path of eradicating corruption through collaboration with all the arms of government to effectively prosecute this fight. We would ensure the diligent and timely prosecution of corruption cases.
keeping Nigeria on a forward march. The president insists it's a collective responsibility and urged the citizenry to strictly observe the coronavirus prevention protocols as the federal government finalizes plans to procure and effectively distribute the COVID-19 vaccines towards ensuring that the country is safe from the resurgent cycle of the global pandemic.
Long live the Nigerian spirit of oneness, togetherness, and unity.
This is Good Morning Nigeria, reaching you from the Nigerian Television Authority, the very first edition in 2021. And it's a very special edition indeed. We are going to be here for the next 2 hours after spending 1 hour. And that's going to be a special package of 3 hours just for you on this very first day of January 2021. And joining us in the studio to discuss the presidential New Year broadcast is Malan Garuba Shehu, Senior Special Assistant to the President of Media and Publicity. Good to have you on Good Morning Nigeria, sir.
Thank you and Happy New Year.
And good to hear from you. At least you're launching the year for us. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you. We also have in the studio Mr. Jide Ojo, who has been with us all the while, at least in so many years before now. He has been a regular here. He's Jide Ojo, public affairs analyst. You're welcome to Good Morning Nigeria, Mr. Jide.
It's a pleasure. Happy New Year, Nigerians.
Didi, I'm wondering if you slept at all, because you've been doing quite analysis, here and there. Good to have you. Let me also introduce David Akoji. He's a special assistant to the Director General, National Orientation Agency, NOA. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Happy New Year, Nigerians.
Yes, and all the way from the UK, joining us, of course, virtually, is Bishop Idowu Ferron. He's the Secretary General, Anglican Consultative Council, and Chairman, Kaduna State Peace Commission. Bishop Ferron, always a pleasure to have you with us on the program.
Thank you, Claire. Good morning and Happy New Year to fellow Nigerians. It's nice to be on your program.
The feeling is mutual, sir. All right.
Okay, the president just spoke, gentlemen, and of course, it's information-packed message for all Nigerians at home and abroad. The spirit is there. The president spoke about the Nigerian spirit, and of course, I cannot start but with the senior special assistant to the president of media, Malan Garuba Shehu. Let's have your assessment of this broadcast to Nigerians this morning by the president.
Thank you again, and to say that I like the word you use there, spirit.
Thank you.
Because I think that the president's speech is a presentation to Nigerians on a new beginning. We're opening new pages and starting anew on so many things. And this broadcast is unique in so many respects, including the fact that actually, and contrary to some of the assertions that I had made on the show earlier on, it's not the tradition that presidents of Nigeria do New Year broadcast.
Okay.
And we laid it before the president yesterday. We checked with the civil servants, and the institutional memory says no. It's not the tradition. But the president said, no, I want to speak to Nigerians.
Okay.
So it's very important that he has broken with the tradition, and he has done this because he wants to connect, reconnect, and also pass very important messages to Nigerians. Other than this, I think that it is a speech that has been well crafted, and it has addressed the major issues of concern. You have highlighted so many of these things. It is important that the president has himself admitted it's been a very tough year. You've seen cartoons on the medias, digital and so on. Actually, some people draw cartoons of the year 2020 and set it alight. Most people all over the world think that 2020 has been a wasted year. In fact, some saying they will not even count it in their age. Yeah, so the president has seen all of that and is saying, well, we're even lucky to have survived it. Here we are. And many of our compatriots did not even make it to 2021 and said his condolences.
And that led him into talking about the country's history itself, saying that we started with a lot of skepticism on the part of watchers globally. Many of them saying this is not something that will last. They didn't give us a chance. And here we are, standing tall, standing strong among the Committee of Nations. And then the president drifted into, by the way, he gave us a new acronym yesterday.
Yeah.
C.
C.
And it's amazing this hadn't been given to Nigerians 6 years into the administration.
I think it deserves an applause. yes. The president has become
Security, Economy, and Corruption.
Yes.
SEA.
Yes.
And these have been there all the while since 2015.
And Madam Garuba didn't think about it.
Well, I'm not taking any credit for anything. The ingenuity belongs to the president. He granted it, they put it in his speech. And there it is. And then that gave him the chance to now address the nation on these strategic issues of significance, shaping the thinking and actions of the government. Security, economy, anti-corruption.
Okay, you said two things, that the speech, the president's broadcast, signified a new beginning, a new page, and a recommitment to, meeting the needs and yearnings of Nigerians. Can you substantiate those in the broadcast?
No. Look at all of the things. A large section of that speech was devoted to addressing young people of this country. The president wasn't talking about himself, his achievements, in fact, what he said at some point was that we will secure the nation and it is for you, the young people of the country. There's nothing he hasn't said about our young people, their ingenuity, creativity, initiative, and the global recognition of the capabilities that is known of the Nigerian young people. And he's now saying, okay, so whatever we'll do, I'm going to engage the parliament. And the thing is that we will help the young people of this country to make the best of these capabilities that they have. So there it is, coming against the backdrop of end SARS, the violence and all of that. The president is saying, we have heard, we have listened, and we're going to act. We're already acting on those elements.
Okay, let's hear your views, David Okoji, Special Assistant to the Director General National Orientation Agency. Let's get your views. Let's get your perspective on the president's broadcast this morning.
I will describe the president's speech in 2 words: responsive and reassuring. I think these 2 words aptly describe that speech, and I'll tell you why I describe it so. I find the president's speech reassuring because it speaks to the worries of many Nigerians. And it also, I'll also describe it as responsive because it addresses the critical issues, that have been in national discussion. The issue of security, the issue of the economy, the issue of the anti-corruption fight, and then the issue of our interesting demography of about 67% youth population. So it's a very strategic speech at a time like this, and it speaks on those critical issues that have been bothering the minds of many Nigerians, in depth. And then it gives reassurance. The president is saying that he will take a look at our security landscape. He's promising to reinforce, some of the measures so as to ensure that Nigerians are secure. He's promising to engage with other stakeholders within the government system to ensure that the fight against corruption becomes more robust and effective and produces the kind of results, that we are all expecting. And then it speaks to the youths, reassuring them that government has not forgotten them. I want to hope that some of the things he has said to the youth in that speech will trend in the social media and other platforms, the same way as other things he had said before had trended. He's recognizing the ingenuity of our youth, and that is spot on. Our youth are achieving great things across the world. in sports, in entertainment, in education. We're producing first-class graduates in Oxford and other universities outside of this country, you know. So that component of his speech should trend and connect him with the youth segment of our national population.
Thank you, Mr. Koji. Jide, still looking at the spirit of the presidential broadcast, it's been variously described. It's a new page, it's a new beginning, it's responsive, and it's reassuring. We'd like to get your perspective. Specifically, are there catchwords, choice words, that would help us decipher the inner disposition of Mr. President towards, you know, the C, you know, agenda which he has, you know, encapsulated for us?
Anyway, I agree with my colleagues on this panel that the president was spot on in highlighting, identifying, and reassuring the country about his campaign promises way back in 2014-2015, when he made this C the cardinal linchpin of his campaign: security, economy, anti-corruption. And it's a work in progress. Governance is a work in progress. A tree does not make a forest. And the president has come to understand the need for collaboration across the three arms of government and across the three tiers of government. How do I mean? He spoke about the collaboration with the National Assembly to get some legislation in place in order to improve governance, and also to work with the judiciary in fast-tracking the anti-corruption crusade. That is very spot on for me, because executive arm cannot do it alone. Neither can the other arms of government. So you need a vertical and horizontal approach to governance. And having identified that, many people will tell you talk is cheap. It's not the catchwords, it's not the buzzwords that really should excite Nigerians. It's about the implementation. It's about having an improved standard of living in 2021 rather than the high cost of living that majority of Nigerians are going through. If the president can deliver on his three key highlights, the C agenda, we are likely going to see significant improvement in 2021 that we have seen in previous years of this administration. However, one core thing that I also would like to draw attention to is the fact that this presidency does not have the luxury of time to deliver on its promises. People will tell you, if you do a vox pop today, people say, haven't we had that before? We've had October 1 speeches. It's not the first time the president is giving January 1 speech. By the way, I have been here to analyze previous one.
That was why I asked you today. That's why I asked you, because words don't just come out, really. If you analyze the use and effects of words, they don't just come out. The president specifically for me, he said, with regards to the youth issue, he said, we have heard, we have listened, and we will act. And I'm wondering, does it give us an idea of a president who is now rethinking previous actions towards the demands of the youth? Is this a president who is saying, look, now we're going to look at your demands from a different perspective?
Well, that well may be it, given the fact that he built on the answers. I saw him trying to unpack that about the 5 demands which he addressed the nation on, which he has set up machinery to address. That he had the voice of Nigerians, and he wants to deliver to the what he called the biggest natural resource this country have had. And that is very spot on. Look, I mean, just 2 days ago, we heard of a young lady, a Nigerian, that has been appointed an advisor to Joe Biden, who is taking up leadership in US in the next 2 weeks.
COVID-19 strategy.
We've heard about other Nigerians in US, in UK, all over the world. In fact, in solving this issue of COVID-19 pandemic, a Nigerian, Ogbagu, played a major role with Pfizer in developing the vaccine. We've seen Nigerian youth becoming the Attorney General and Minister of Justice in Canada. We've seen several other landslide and very major achievements. And so, addressing the core is speech to the nation on how to unpack and develop the potentials of Nigerian youth. It's actually something commendable. But like I said, we've had.
So for you,
documented.
It's still in the spirit of the spirit of this broadcast. It's commendable.
Very commendable. Okay. But like I said, we need to take it to the next level of effective and adequate implementation. People are going to benchmark this. They are going to draw matrix. They are going to say at the end of 2021, did the president deliver on his
we will look at that. Jide, we will look at that. Yes.
Jide. We thank you so much for that perspective. And then, indeed, it's reassuring that Nigerians are making it all over the place across the globe. Malam Garba Shehu, let's look at the C thing: security, economy, anti-corruption fight. And let's connect it to the Nigerian youth, whom we say are the future of tomorrow and the future leaders of the country. Looking at that issue, especially the president's promise to Nigerians, he listened. He's going to act. The demands are going to be made by the grace of God. Now, Jide just said, Nigerians are making it all over the world. All over, wherever you go, the Nigerian spirit, shines and flies very high. And he raised an issue talking about implementation. Is it just the speeches and the words and how good they look like? The implementation of these in order to carry Nigerians along, especially the youths, is very, very important. What is your comment about getting these very promises actualized?
Well, you know that on the matter of NSAS and all of the 5 elements that agitated the young people, I think that the government has walked its talk because virtually all of the 5 elements, they have been met or are well on their way of being met. And so therefore, I think that in terms of establishing credibility for implementation of commitments made, the president has proven this coming this far as the matter of NSAS is concerned. Now, there are already a number of projections, some of them built into the 2021 budget. The economic sustainability plan, which the government launched to address the impact of the COVID attack on the economy, has already gone into use in some sectors. For the young people of Nigeria, a big segment of that is coming with the budget. There is 25 billion naira, for instance, that is going to be spent funding the creative initiatives of Nigerian youths who are innovators, who are creators. Government has a plan for a 75 billion naira spending on all of that. So I guess that the mechanism is already in place, and yes, I have no problem with Nigerians auditing the government because it is their responsibility to do so. As a matter of fact, when he signed the budget yesterday, the president extended an invitation to civil society and the parliament, and he said, check us, in effect saying, look at what we're doing and correct us where we go wrong.
And that's the A component of the C thing.
Yes, well, that is yes, anti-corruption in terms of, yes. And security has given assurances that the government is well aware of its own duty, which is the protection of life and property of Nigeria. Okay. And he has made clear, of course, that, and he didn't say we are scaring this country for ourselves or for me. When the country is secure, it is secure for you, young people of the country. Yeah.
Okay, Madam Garba, thank you. Let's go to UK, virtually that is, and bring in into this conversation Bishop Idowu Ferron, who is the Secretary General of Anglican Consultative Council and Chairman, Kaduna State Peace Commission. Bishop Ferron, thank you for keeping on with us. Page 16, that's I have a hard copy of the President's speech here with me. I'm sure you do have a soft copy of it, but page 16 of the broadcast, touched on the issue of, unity, the need to protect lives and property of all Nigerians, and of course, adapting to changing threats to our national security and civic well-being. While you also touch on the spirit of the broadcast, we'd also like you to give us your perspective to the issues pertaining to the President's, speech on the issue of security and national unity.
Thank you, Claire. I have been listening to the contributions by my colleagues on this panel. First and foremost, I will want to join them in saying thank you to Mr. President for stating very clearly the three areas his government will be focusing on: security, economy, and anti-corruption. And as Mr. Ojo has said, people will ask or will comment, we've heard all that before. What is going to be different? And I want to say one or two things in response to that before I take on the question of unity of our country and the safety of property and life. Mr. President's body language is worth studying. He is not, from my understanding, from my relationship with him, he seems to be slow in acting. And for the young people, the youths, unfortunately, he has focused on the young people. There is no patience with the young people. My church is like Mr. President. We are very slow in acting. It takes time. We debate, we discuss before coming to a conclusion. I will therefore plead with the nation that we study the body language of Mr. President. That's number one. Number two, this government should not be a one-man band. Mr. President has now given his, if I may use my military background, his marching orders. What we need now in response to what Brother Ojo has said is action for the officers who are responsible for the various points Mr. President has made to now come and tell us how they will be operationalizing what Mr. President has put to the nation. Young people are asking, please lead us by example. Where you have our politicians, our National Assembly members, whose children are treated differently from the rest of us. The young people will not take that. So please, all the legislators, members of the National Assembly, all the ministers, the governors, lead by example and try to act out what Mr. President has said. Now, the question of unity of this nation, from my perspective, and I am 70 years old, I'm 71, so I'm not young in Nigeria. Our young people are no longer patient with our leaders. I said that before. However, there are people who do not think nationally. The unity of this nation is not on the front burner of a significant number of our leaders. Mr. President is a nationalist. Mr. President is committed to the unity of this country. As I read the lips of people who are wanting to be leaders of this country, they work on two things: religion and where they come from. Either the southwest, southeast, or south-south, either the north-central or northwest. We need people who will think nationally, and that is why I support Mr. President. He thinks nationally. Yes, there are people who are accusing him of the people he has appointed, the people he's given responsibilities to. And I want to speak openly to Mr. President. Please, in order for you to really demonstrate your concept of national unity, listen and act. You have promised to reorganize, to re-energize, to revamp the security apparatus. People are waiting, people are watching, and we are praying for you. And so, for us to be united, let our leaders come out and speak and act with the nation at heart, not the little area of the country where they come from. This is my first shot at what Mr. President has said.
Bishop Farron, thank you. I just like some clarifications. You know, democracy on its own is a very laborious process, very expensive and tedious, not as seamless as other systems of government. And you've talked about the fact that Mr. President might be slow in acting. You mentioned debating, discussing, dialogue, but these are also democratic processes. So how might we differentiate between complying with these democratic processes and being slow to act?
Democracy is not microwaved, if there is any word like that. Democracy calls for debate. Democracy calls for a listening process. Democracy calls for patience, because decision is taken. Everybody will want to see a result. Look at this Brexit thing, for example. It's taken 4 years. 4 years. And the debate continues, even though the paper, the agreement was signed 2 days ago. I live here and I've seen what is going on. Nigerians must learn, especially our young, learn to be patient. But for them to keep their patience, I want to urge the government to include young people. Include them in the debate, include the women in our debates. We do not have enough.
Lost Bishop Idowu there. He's speaking from UK, that's London, I believe.
Yes, sorry. I thought maybe Malam Garba would, respond to some of the issues.
That is why I wanted to really put
Please,
forward.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yes.
Now these are issues that pertains to the president
Precisely.
directly. Talking about the president being slow. He admitted that much earlier. Was it 2016, 2017? I know that was something he used which went viral. I think it's in the United States. He said they always call him Baba Go Slow. And if you may ask, those who run fast, where have they reached? What's their target? Where are they, right? Now, that's Bishop Ferron saying that the president should act, listen and act, and then the people should really, understand his body language. And indeed, the youth should also understand that it's not an easy thing to lead per se, because you have to listen to so many shades of opinions. Why do you see the youth coming into this to understand that the process is not as they think? He provided a solution. He said, let the youth be part of the discussion, let the women be part of the discussion, and when these arguments and processes are unfolding, they are part of it, they will appreciate it. What's your take on this?
Well, let me first of all say that really it's a privilege being on the same panel with Bishop Idu Ferron. I know him, he's a very close friend of the government, of the president.
All right.
And he's someone we had read in the pages in his weekly sermons in the newspaper, going back to our days in secondary school and all of that. So, and to say that when we keep talking about young people achieving so much, I think we should be also fair to elderly people of this country. Senior citizens have also gone out and have achieved, and look at the position he occupies in the Anglican world as we speak today. And I totally agree with him that that democracy is partially the cause of what we are seeing today. It's a tedious process. Democracy is not revolution. And so therefore you don't change things overnight. You have to talk to people. And from a personal point of view, the president likes to make a play of this, but he sends a very serious message. He said, I first came in uniform as military head of state, and we got everybody, ministers, governors, and we put them in jail and said, you have to prove yourself innocent. We assume you are guilty, which is a complete reversal of the concept of natural justice. And he said, how did it end? In the end, I was thrown out of that office. I was locked up for 36 months. And all of those people that we locked up, they were released and they were given back the process of corruption. Now, I have come back in civilian dress. I'm a Democrat. I will go by the due process. And the due process is tedious because it involves everyone, inclusion, involvement. The parliament must be carried along, and the judiciary, each one guarding their own space very jealously, because it's a constitution that is governed by separation of powers. The president cannot look at all of the things about anti-corruption.
But that's not to say you can't speed up things. Let's look at the issue with the Kankara rescue, for instance. I mean, the government went in. So what might enable, speedy response to issues?
Well, the president has given a commitment in this speech. He has told the nation that we're not going to allow this to become a regular feature. We must learn to take steps to ensure that these things don't come. Nigerian military, they acted intelligently, very promptly, because without having acted so quickly to have surrounded the entire location in which those young people, they would have gone far. So,
did you think that government's response to the NSAS delayed?
Am I entitled to a personal opinion? That's my question.
No. We're having a conversation.
You have the choice
anyway. Well, the government, wherever, and in our own case, a democratic one, you get pulled from all directions. And there are all the elements inside government. There are people who think that, look, crush this thing and stop it from day one. And the majority will say, well, this is a democracy. Protests are free. They are allowed. They must be allowed to continue. But the point, it got to the point where they blocked access to the airport. The president had two presidents in his house. They couldn't be delivered to the airport. They had to use chopper to transport them to Abuja airport. And the people in Lagos were kept away from the airport. So it became chaotic. And look at all of the violence that came. And so therefore, that strong arm had to come in. I think that the meeting point will be found at some point. The young people accepting that the processes that I do take time, and that the intention of government is sincere.
David Okoji, let's hear your views about this. It seems as if the whole thing now revolves around the youth of this country, and the speech seemed to be really reassuring, as you said, and of course it's responsive. But I would want to believe that being reassuring, the youth really want to see that reassurance. Reassurance in the sense that, okay, the president said he has listened, and of course he's going to take action, all right? Do you see the reassurance element of this, speech strong enough to pacify the youths in trying to understand that governance is not what they think, but what it is?
There are some points that my elder brother Garba Shehu made, and which also resonated in the contributions that we heard from Bishop Idowu Ferron. I want to amplify those points.
Go ahead.
Because they will speak to these issues. The point that Garba Shehu made, he stressed the intentions of the president to enhance inclusion. And that even in the process of budget signing, that the president extended invitation to civil society organizations to be part of it. And for what purpose? For the purpose of accountability, follow-up, and monitoring. And Archbishop Idowu Ferron actually took the words straight from my heart when the issue was raised about implementation, going beyond the speech to ensure that the things that the president has said actually begin to happen as we enter 2021. And so I want to amplify that. There's an attitude we have in this country, and Bishop Idowu Ferron did refer to that. We are always looking at the top. If you work with chief executives, when they speak, if you are conscious of your duties, you know which portion calls for your own action as a holder of a certain position of responsibility. Then the president's responsibility becomes supervisory, The president spoke to an entire plethora of issues that are troubling Nigerians. The issue of security, the issue of the anti-corruption fight, the address to the youths. And all of these are sectoral. And they have stakeholders who have specific commitments to these sectors. So what the president's speech should do is it should activate some action. He spoke about engaging with the legislature. There's certainly someone somewhere who has responsibility for the engagement of the executive with the legislature. So that should flag some sort of action, and a strategy design that should begin to see that the things that the president have said, actually begin to happen on the ground. So there's responsibility that's spread. And those who have this responsibility, like us, have listened to this speech, and they should go into action. The second leg of the matter again is this. Citizens group. Democracy, as is practiced globally, calls for citizens' participation. Citizens hold their governments accountable for promises that are made, for policy decisions that are put in place. It is good to make policies, yes, but policy do not approximate to implementation. There's a big gap between the two. And within that gap, stakeholders must come to play. They must play their roles to do what is necessary. We must keep resonating the things that have been said in this speech and know who to hold responsible. Then ultimately it builds up to the president who made the commitment. But if we speak as though the president would be the one personally to begin to take the actions that are necessary in all of these sectors, then we are not being realistic. We know who is responsible for which sector in all the issues that the president has addressed in the speech. Okay,
Judy, if you look at the 13th, number 13 and 16A of the president's speech, I know you don't have it ready, but 13 is speaking to the issue that Bishop Ferron raised, and Malam Garba Shehu also talked about re-energizing and reorganizing the security apparatus. And then 16A is recognizing that we rapidly have to move to a more proactive and preemptive posture to ensure that sort of traumatic incidents do not become a norm. What's the evaluation of that? And how do you interpret that? A lot of people have been, making reference to that. Is this an affirmation of recommitment of the presidency to tackling insecurity?
Of course, yes. Given the fact that, you see, being long on rhetorics does not help any government globally, and the reality on ground is people want to see some actions delivered. We are always very lucky in this country because of human capital resource to identifying the problem. And as some philosophers will say, a problem identified is what? Half solved. But it's only half solved and almost does not kill a bird. You may say, oh, I almost killed that parrot. I almost killed that eagle. I almost killed that hawk. But you can't cook it. You can only claim achievement when you have delivered. And if you take an opinion poll today, Nigerians will tell you point blank, they are not as safe as when the president even came in. Not for his own personal fault. He has said he wished he were in government as a democratic leader in his younger age. Attention span of the president is limited. He's a septuagenarian. And anybody above 60, you have to depend more on lieutenants to get things done. And the president is one person I know that likes to delegate responsibilities. How have the lieutenants delivered on those responsibilities is a big question. Because you don't expect the president to be the one knocking on NTAs to say, oh, you have not done this. Why have we not seen this? Why have we not done that? That's why he hired, and the constitution backs him up to appoint at least a minister from every state. If I may speak slightly about how things can be sped up. In US, where we copied our presidential system of government, you could see there is what is called a transition law, that once a president-elect comes into being, there is a transition committee that comes in, kicks in. And you can see, Joe Biden has almost completed the appointment of his cabinet, even without having been sworn in. Every week he comes up, this is going to be my Secretary of State, this is going to be, but flashback to 2015. It took the president 6 months to appoint who? To appoint his cabinet. You
know, we're having a discussion, sorry Judy, we're having this discussion based on this recommitment, based on this. We don't even want to look back. You know, the president has said, look, this is remember we all said, this broadcast, it's a new beginning, it's a new page, it's responsive and it's reassuring. So in the light of this, and I'm referencing that particular aspect of Mr. President broadcast on re-energizing and reorganizing the security based on calls for a change of security chiefs. Are we likely to see that?
We may see that, but like the president, Bishop Ferron said, understand the body language of the president. How many resolutions have been passed by the Senate for these security chiefs to be removed? The president has largely ignored that call because they serve at his prerogative. And luckily, he is a former military leader, head of state, a general in the army. Perhaps what I or many of us in civil society do not understand, he sees it. He believes for now these are his best hands to help him deliver on securing the nation, even though majority of Nigerians may disagree with him on that count, given the statistics and the spikes in insecurity, insurgency, and all of that. But uneasy lies there that wears the crown. Yeah, sure. The bottom line is this. The president, like I agree with other speakers on this panel, is very spot on in identifying the problems. But he will not personally do these things. He has hired the secretary to the federal government. He has hired the chief of staff. He has 43-member cabinet. These are people that will help him to drive the process. What he needs to do is to provide the superintendents, the oversight over these people. And if I may just appeal, the lieutenants of the president must be up and doing in 2021. We don't want a repeat of NSAS. We don't want it, because if you look at that NSAS, at the second, third week, it was metamorphosing into end impunity, end bad governance, and when you strike on governance, it affects quite a wide range of issues. So what we need to do, and my referencing US was not to do a blame game. I'm only saying, we may also think of tinkering with our constitution to say, okay, before you assume duty, there was a call at some point in time to say, let's have the president and governors maximum of 3 months to form their cabinet. You will recall that even while we may say the president was lethargic in appointing his cabinet in 2015, some governors ran a whole year without commissioners. Because as far as they are concerned, they are not bound by any constitutional provision to do this in a time limit. But I'm saying we can fast track governance by ensuring, in terms of appointment, not allowing any lacuna. For instance, there were reports in past years of vacancies in ministries, departments, and agencies that are not filled on time. This also contributes to non-implementation of quite a number of things. If a board of a parastatal ministries or department is supposed to have come in and they are not sworn in, they are not inaugurated, head of an institution, there is a vacancy there, there is no person appointed in substantive capacity, this can impact negatively on smooth running of governance.
Yeah, you made a point really clear, and I think it's a valid one, really. I can see Garubasho who wanted to really react to these issues as soon as possible. But before you do that, allow me to just get over to Bishop Ido. We'll get back to you, really. Bishop Ido, I want you to react, really, to this paragraph 13, which Jide Ojo reacted to, and talking about re-energizing and reorganizing the security apparatus and personnel of the armed forces and the police with a view to enhancing their capacity to engage, push back, and dismantle the operations of both internal and external extremists and criminal groups waging war against our communities in some parts of this country. Looking at your other background, apart from the bishopship, and which you really share with the president, and the public yearn, if I may use this phrase, about the re-energizing and reorganizing of the security apparatus. How do you see this playing out as soon as possible, given the president's reassurance? And you mentioned really the president's body language, which I know you as a person might have seen it much clearly than most of us.
Thank you, Yusuf. Two things. Building on what my colleagues have already said, I would want and request and plead for more visibility of our president in the nation. By that I don't mean every day he should address the nation. He is the first citizen of our country. In terms of visibility, what I mean is this, that he should request for accountability and transparency from all those who are serving in his government. Now, he's done that several times. However, like I said, and I'm happy that Garba and all the others agree with me, the officers who are responsible and accountable to Mr. President should now begin to make sure that there is the visibility. The president is visible in terms of action, the things that are happening. Now, you asked specifically on the security outfit of our country. Mr. President said, we will reorganize. We will re-energize. And I added another adjective, we will revamp. People have been shouting, Mr. President, please change the service chiefs. I know that is a hot button subject, and I'm picking on it because I can tell Mr. President the way I feel. I have written in one of the papers, it is now a moral problem for Mr. President. It's a question of morality. I have a military background like Mr. President. There are about 100 officers who have had to retire as a result of the present service chiefs being in position. And ex-military schoolboys feed me with details of what is going on. I want to plead in terms of this visibility and action for Mr. President to set in motion the process of getting trusted, dependable, reliable, well-trained younger officers to take over from the service chiefs. I know that changing service chiefs is not the whole solution, but morally, it will imbue, the commitment of the officers and men who are under the supervision of Mr. President. I'm saying that in love because this is our nation and we want Mr. President to succeed. So in terms of reorganizing, re-energizing and revamping, there is a need to have younger people who are agile and willing to cooperate. Number two, it is now left to the men in the armed forces and our security outfits to be honest, to be sincere, and to be dedicated. There are so many things going on. Generals, officers are now cattle herders. They do this, they do that. They need to be professionally competent. They need to sever themselves from civil or civilian activities. And they need to be committed to Mr. President and the security of our country. I am saying this because these are things people are saying. Let's call a spade a spade.
Thank you, Bishop Ido Ferron. Thank you. And let's now throw the ball, into the court of Mr. Garba Shehu, who, of course, will give us. Madam Garba, how would you interpret that number 13, re-energizing and reorganizing the security apparatus? Because this will be subject to different interpretations and explanations out there in the social media. What does this mean for us, against the background of calls for a change of security apparatus? And with the way the military handled the Kankara, students, the professional way that was handled, this will give different meanings to this number 13. And then also look at the issue of infrastructure that Mr. President talked about, the national infrastructural base. So far, we see a number of what's going on in the transportation, sector. You give us more insight into what is happening in the other areas.
Okay. Please, before I miss the opportunity, I think that there are one or two things that need to be, there are always two sides to a given issue, and I think that the President has said something in that speech again, which he said there are people who say we are not as fast as they are or we have not met up on their expectation, and we accept that they have a right to differ with us. Our happiness is the fact that we are all driven in the same direction, which is to achieve the best for our country. So fine, people should disagree. But factually, I think that it is incorrect to assume or to say that the President took over the country a safer country than it now is. I totally disagree with this because look, when he took over in 2015, the United Nations didn't have an office in Abuja. They had been bombed. The headquarters of the Nigeria police. It's an index case. It has never happened. It was bombed. The churches, mosques. In my city, Kano, 300 worshippers on Friday were bombed and killed. So, yes, there are new challenges that have come. But as the president said, look, the dexterity with which we move and tackle them. You cited Kankara. It's a good example of the fact that, as he said in that speech, that we inherently have the capacity to tackle this threat of terrorism and banditry in our own country. So the expectation is that we should not slide from this. No, we should improve, continue to get better on this one. And then there is the issue of the 6 months without a cabinet, and then the citation of Mr. Biden. And now, let me ask this question. If Mr. Trump had continued to shut the US government against Mr. Biden by not allowing interaction between the incoming people and his own administration people, I assure you that Mr. Biden will not have by now been announcing cabinet appointments, will not be a readiness to assume that office. And this is the case we had in 2015. Nigerians don't want us to talk about this thing, but the fact is that we had an outgoing administration which said we don't have two governments, we are not going to have two governments at the same time. And they said there must not be contact between the senior officials and the incoming people. And so President Buhari had to sit through long meetings, listening to people left behind, permanent secretaries and senior officials, bringing him up to speed on ongoing things in the country.
But going forward, is this likely to change? This approach, is it likely to change?
Well, we have a government, we are already in the second term, and you can see that the president, without any waste of time, promptly, reshuffled his cabinet and moved on. And the issue of service chiefs, well, when military people talk between themselves, they know better than ourselves. My assumption always is that they are seeing things that we don't see, and they know things that we don't know.
I was asking you to interpret that.
Well,
number 16.
The president said reorganization and re-energizing.
Yes.
I think that he meant exactly what those words mean. So
reorganize, re-energize.
So I think that is left for him. It's left to him for him to.
Okay, just before we end the infrastructure.
On a very serious note, really now, Malan Garuba Shehu, our time is up really on this segment. But let's hear your parting thoughts, Nigerians, about the president broadcasting the message. You mentioned something very important here, that there's great admittance on the part of the presidency on people's views and opinions, really, and you're all taking this into consideration. What's your parting thoughts?
Well, that the president has come in his full colors, without any pretenses. I'm talking to Nigerians on where he stands on the issues of the day. And he has said it. Give him the benefit of the doubt. Accept him, and let's see how it goes.
Okay, we have tweets that have come in. Let's quickly take a look at this before we end this first part of our conversation. Dele Jack Solomon, it's good that the president is reaching out to citizens on the first day of the new year. Kudos to him. We implore him to intensify efforts to implement all elements that he had mentioned in his broadcast so that Nigeria might achieve all-round success this year and years to come. Happy New Year, he says.
I think Yerima Issa here says on the presidential broadcast, we have acknowledged the prompt response on the rescued Kankara students, and I want the government to put more effort in rescuing the remaining people in the hands of their captives.
Mutina Farouk, President Muhammad Buhari's New Year broadcast is insulating the unity of Nigeria is sacrosanct and sine qua non to the growth and development of Nigeria. All hands must be on deck to lift Nigeria from the economic recession to the economic magnification. God bless Nigeria.
Amen. And of course, Festus Akim Boyua, our regular here, says PNB's eloquently delivered New Year's message is welcomed, but we want to see action, especially on security and NSAS demands. Happy New Year to Nigerians. God will cancel all negative prophecies against Nigeria and win a mighty victory for Nigerians in 2021.
Okay, Sulaiman Babagana, insecurity bedeviling the nation should be addressed head-on by having a holistic approach because it has suffered development in all ramifications and sources of livelihood are becoming more and more difficult for the people.
Bamina Senox here says police reform should take off immediately in the areas like salary increment, training and retraining of officers, and be held accountable for unprofessional conduct and bad behaviors, etc.
Okay, and Yerima Issa, let the government strike so hard to deal decisively with insecurity.
And finally, Ibrahim Abdusalam Bello says, it was a nice speech anyway. We expect actions this time around. May God Almighty bless Nigeria with a prosperous new year, that is 2021. Amen. We thank you so much for these tweets, and we believe you've been coming with us. We thank you so much. Madam Garba Shehu, it's our pleasure. You've come along with us. Happy New Year, and of course, we wish you all the best.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much. Jide, it's our pleasure you've been with us. As you've always been, and we hope to see more of you in, 2021.
Thanks for the
Already in 2021.
Happy New Year
continuation
to
of
all
the year,
of
really.
us.
Yeah.
All right. Go ahead, David Akoji.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Senior Special Assistant to the NOA President, Director General. It's our pleasure you've been with us. We thank you so much, and then we hope and believe you are going to be part of us much more in the years and the days ahead.
We thank you so much.
Thank you
for the privilege.
Let me also appreciate Bishop Ido Ferron, Secretary General, Anglican Consultative Council, and Chairman, Kaduna State Peace Commission. Thank you, Bishop. It's always a pleasure to have you with us and your frank contributions. God will bless Nigeria. Thank you very much. Gentlemen, thank you, and do have a pleasant 2021.
Thank you.
This is Good Morning Nigeria. Our second topic is right after this break.
My name is Nando Jamda Mohammed.
Stevita
Hussein Musa. Goduna Joel Tinji. Said Musa John. I'm a carpenter. I've been doing this for more than 8 years now.
And I said plantain. Nakai Kimami Shekara Uku. I've been selling my tomatoes for about 10 years now, and I do it for a better Nigeria.
And I do it for a better Nigeria.
Ina wannan sana'ar lemu ne domin Nigeria ta ci gaba. Ina sa domin Nigeria ta kyau.
And you can see we are doing our small little work to make Nigeria great.
As you can see, I'm a technician, and I'm doing it to help myself and to help my generation.
Ina zaune ne a Plateau na business, kuma ina yin wannan domin ci gaban ƙasar nan.
Dear customer, link your Airtel number to your national identification number today. Here are easy ways you can do it. Dial *121*1# on your Airtel line and follow the prompts on the screen. Type in your 11-digit government-approved NIN number. You will receive a confirmation message to confirm your entry. You can also visit www.airtel.com.ng/NIN to link your phone number to your NIN. If you do not know your NIN, simply dial *346# to get it. No stress, no wahala.
Airtel, the smartphone network. A new edition of TV Guide is out with special focus on the game changer, His Excellency Governor Abdullahi Sule of Nasarawa State. Broadcasting in a digital economy, Maxwell Logo gives an insight. This edition also features Nancy Naji of AIT, a name synonymous with business. Meet the NCDC boss, Dr. Chikwe Ihekweazu. TV Guide, your indispensable companion, also x-rays the relevance of social media in the modern society. Meet some TV professionals who have impacted their spaces and other inspiring stories in sports, entertainment, and lots more. Grab a copy at the vendor near you or NTA stations nationwide. TV Guide, your indispensable companion. Dialogue, empathy, love, and unity. These are vital components of nation building.
For all to be well, we appeal that we should refrain from volatile, provocative, inciting messages and language.
Let's build and not destroy.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria, reaching you live from the Nigerian Television Authority. And of course, today is 01012021. That's the 1st of January 2021. We're just through with our first segment. And we shall take on the second segment any moment. And in line with the present administration's commitment to maintain the January to December cycle of budgeting, President Muhammadu Buhari signed the 2021 appropriation bill into law. Adam Sambo put together this report on signing of the document as a prompt for our discussion.
Flanked by Vice President Yemi Oshibanjo and presiding officers of the National Assembly, amongst others, President Muhammadu Buhari signs the two critical money bills into law to enable the implementation of the 13.58 trillion naira 2021 budget beginning January the 1st. This is the second consecutive year since the return to democracy in 1999. The nation's federal budget will be passed and assented to before the commencement of the new fiscal year, a further confirmation of the administration's resolve to maintain a predictable January to December budget cycle.
As you are all aware, our economy recently lapsed into its second recession in 4 years. We intend to use the budget to accelerate our economic recovery process, promote social inclusion, and strengthen the resilience of the economy. Ministries, departments, and agencies are hereby directed to redouble efforts towards implementation of their programs and projects in ways that promote the greater public good.
The President appreciated what he called sustained mutual understanding, collaboration, and high-level constructive engagement between the executive and the legislature, which made the accelerated enactment of the important money bills possible. This partnership, he said, must be sustained regardless of any differences in the greater interests of Nigerians. He, however, said changes made to the executive proposal will be examined and, where necessary, requests for amendment, variant, or appropriate adjustments will be forwarded to the National Assembly for consideration so that the core objectives of the budget are accomplished.
The 2021 budget is very critical to the delivery of the legacy projects of our administration. I also expect that the 2021 budget will stimulate domestic economic activities and create employment opportunities, especially for the youth. Relevant agencies are to ensure the realization of our crude oil production and export targets. Heads of defaulting agencies are hereby warned that they will be severely sanctioned.
And in view of the recent spike in coronavirus cases nationwide, the President promised to ensure timely implementation of the health and emergency measures in the 2021 budget towards controlling and containing the global pandemic, as well as protecting the lives and livelihoods of Nigerians.
As a nation, we are currently confronted with diverse challenges at this time. I commend the understanding, sacrifice, resilience of our people, both young and old. I assure everyone that our hope and confidence of a greater future shall not be in vain.
One important revelation at the budget signing ceremony was the disclosure by Finance Minister Zainab Ahmed that the 2020 budget was implemented a record 97.7%.
And this is to show what can be achieved when the legislature and the executive arms of government work together in harmony for the benefit of the people of Nigeria. So long as it is a national interest, we will give Mr. President the kind of support that he requires to make Nigeria a better place, to make Nigeria a safer place, to make the economy of Nigeria work for every Nigerian.
It's all about us. Government is all about everybody. It's not about the legislature, it's not about the executive. The president said it clearly. He said we also need the cooperation of the civil societies. He asked the agencies and the ministries to also cooperate, because that's another arm of government. That's another check and balance to government. And so we're calling on them, we're calling on the people out there to continue to show support.
The Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Shamsuna Ahmed, is expected to provide further details on the 2021 budget in the coming days.
All right, welcome back. This is Good Morning Nigeria. We're going on with our second conversation on today's program. If you just joined us, it's a special edition on New Year's Day. Let me welcome our guests, and they're all seated. First, here with us in the studio, Dr. Ken Ukoha. He's President, National Association of Nigerian Traders. I'm sure you know when you see him, you know what we're going to be talking about. Thank you very much, Dr. Ken, for joining us.
Thank you very much, and Happy New Year.
From our Kaduna studio, we are being joined by Dr. Mohammed Sani Bello. He's an Associate Professor of Accounting and Financial Control, Kaduna State University. Associate Prof, thank you very much for joining us. Compliment of the season to you.
From our Muni studio, we have Professor Zakariya Olalekan, Professor of Entrepreneurship and E-Business. He is as well the Head of the Department of Entrepreneurship and Business Studies, Federal University of Technology, Minna. It's a pleasure to have you, Prof. It's a pleasure to have you, Prof. It's a pleasure to have you. Hello? Okay, now let's get started. We're talking about the budget 2021. And we really want to hear or get some assessment of all of you guys on this issue. We're talking about the 13.580 trillion naira of the federal government, and we're trying to really see what really is there for Nigerians and indeed the world. Let's start with you, Ken. You are the National President of the National Association of Nigerian Traders. And of course, that budget has a chunk for you as business who really want to thrive in this, this year 2021. What's your assessment of this 2021 Appropriation Act?
Thank you very much, Yusuf. And once again, good morning, Nigerians, and Happy New Year. I think I should start with the comment from the Honorable Minister of Finance, where she stated that the performance of the budget for 2020 was about 97.7% in terms of implementation. And therefore, it's something that we should commend. I stand to be corrected that this perhaps may be the first time we are hitting this particular volume in terms of performance and implementation of our budget. Therefore, kudos to the government. Now, I would also begin to look at 2021 budget in comparison with what we had in 2020, and then look at the impact so that the figures would now begin to speak to realities, speak to the lives and livelihoods of Nigerians. Because, budgets are always created and formulated to impact on human beings, impact on citizens. What we need to do is to start looking at what was the impact of 2020 budget on Nigerians. I think that should be the starting point. And if you ask me, 97.7%, I'm not judging. In terms of performance, perhaps we need to take a little bit of a step further to now begin to ask ourselves what sectors were actually impacted, what has moved forward. In terms of infrastructure, what value addition has been added? And of course, you mentioned trade. In terms of trade, what kind of infrastructure, trade infrastructure, do we have on ground as we speak? And of course, you can see that rails are springing up here and there, which are facilitators of trade. I mean, in terms of infrastructure, that you can say, yes, we see where funds are heading into. Again, what about our roads? What about ports infrastructure? We are talking about heading into AFCFT implementation. If our ports, for instance, are still not in a position to receive or facilitate the export of goods and services, where are we? What has the budget done in this regard? We also look at it from the angle of food security. Here we are, food prices are going higher. What was the impact of our 2020 budget on food availability, food sustainability, as well as food security? What was the impact of that budget on nutrition, for instance? And how did the budget impact on small-scale farmers to the extent that they have inputs available for them, to the extent that they can now be talking to us and say, yes, out of what we need in terms of capacity utilization in the country, this is exactly what we've been able to produce. These are things we need to do.
Dr. Ken, you've been there, you've been here in this country for at least quite a long time. And when you mention all this, you should have been, a party or a witness, I would say, to all these things between January 2020 and December 31, 2021, when the lifespan of that budget expired. And as you said, 97.7% performance is a good grade, wherever you go, right? So these items you're mentioning, all right, are part of 97.7%. Now, how do you see 2021 appropriation law, all right, playing out in order to consolidate on this? How do you see it?
And that's exactly where I was heading to. Honestly, when I look at 2021 budget, first of all, we had a budget proposal of 13.08 trillion. And then when it came out from the National Assembly through appropriation, we now have 13.588 trillion, an addition of about 500 billion. Now, if we have these figures, I have not taken my time to look at what exactly, after the president just signed the budget into law. The specific figures are not really clear yet in terms of, number one, what constitutes the 500 extra that the National Assembly, in their wisdom, had added. But let's look at it as a big chunk of holistically. Now, I look at it from let me start from the trade. capital expenditure for the trade sector is about, I think 58 billion. And I look at the capital expenditure for, the total budget for agriculture. I see 137 billion. Okay. Now, I begin to look at what happened in 2020 and now the budget of 2021. Starting from food security, because I'm so much interested in food security, because you need to eat first. We need to be alive. And moreover, we are also in recession. We need to jump out. Now, if I look at these figures, when I do some comparisons, the 2020 budget, we had about 1.3 thereabout in terms of total allocation to agriculture. But this time around, we have 1.37 now, or thereabout. What has shifted? What will that impact on food security? Today we have food prices going up.
Okay, Dr. Ken,
yes,
we just wanted to tease this conversation, because we would have a more deeper and elaborate conversation on it, next week, because we also have to touch on the beginning of the single market. So let's quickly bring in other guests to also share their perspectives. And I'd like to go to our Kaduna studio where Dr. Sani Bello, who is an associate professor of accounting and financial control. Dr. Bello, if you look at the 13.5, about 13.6, trillion budget, what for you would you tick off as the success indicators or success markers?
Thank you very much. I think the budget size is good, because what the budget is saying is that there's going to be an increase of about 35% to the last budget, that is the 2020 budget. And then in terms of expenditure, the budget size is increased to by 31.9%. So this is the budget. But I think I also need to make comment on what the Honorable Minister has said regarding the 97.7% performance. Budget, it depends on what you quote and what you present as your budget. If the original 2020 budget was held to the end, that is without being revised, I'm sure the level of performance wouldn't have been 97.7%. This budget of 2020 took a position at a point, and it was revised downward, especially the revenue budget, because of the COVID-19 pandemic. What I thought should have happened was to leave the budget as it were, without revision of revenue aspect of it, so that at the end of the year we would have seen the impact of COVID-19 on the budget performance itself. But by that revision, which was just done by hunch, it was not any, to the best of my knowledge, it wasn't very scientific. The revenue side of the budget was brought down, was reduced, and then all of a sudden we're hearing that the revenue aspect, about 4-point-something trillion has been wrecked, and so that is why now 97.7% can be claimed. So I think we should learn from what happened in 2020 with regards to the implementation of the 2021 budget, such that we don't have to revise the 7.8 trillion now, which is supposed to be the new revenue target. We don't need to revise it downward just because of one thing or the other. Let us see how we can measure the impact, the true impact of anything that may come our way during the implementation of the 2021 budget. So this will be my first comment at this point.
Thank you. That's taking care of the unexpected so that we're not taken unawares, just as the drop in oil prices and, of course, COVID-19 happened, and we had to review downwards our budget. Professor Olalekun, you're joining us from our main studio. This is a budget that's supposed to run concurrently with the 2020 budget. The 2020 budget cycle is expected to end March, if I'm March 31st, if I'm not mistaken. And we're told that this also will run at the same time. So what will be the implication of this on project execution and outcomes?
Good morning once again, and good morning, Nigerians. First and foremost, I want to make it clear that budget issues is beyond the significance of figures. So first and foremost, we need to understand that the previous years of 2020, whatever we want to align with 2021 budget, the most important thing is that we should see beyond the figures. The errors, the figures in terms of how significant the figures will be, we know that we'll be relating it to expansion or reduction. But what really matters is the quality of the budget. I don't want to preempt the government because in the earlier discussion, we got to know that very soon, maybe in weeks' time, we are going to have the details of the budget. So without the details, this is just a framework releasing of figures of these numbers of trillion. I don't want to say much, but we can say a very significant thing on the past, which is 2020, is still fresh in our memory. The quality of lives of Nigerians have dropped. So whatever it is a factor responsible from the budget or the angles of the budget that really didn't cater or is not effective, that drop the quality of life of Nigerians, which include the youth and the women, which they are very, very important in the players. That is what I expected us to see in the details of the 2021 budget. So as far as I'm concerned, from my own opinion, figures are important, but we should see beyond the figures. The implementations, as we are expecting, I expected that now the budget has been signed by as soon as we enter the first day of the new year. That is yesterday. It shouldn't take the ministry of whoever that is very, very close to that second step to release the details. We need this sensitization first and foremost. Without us, if we are not informed, definitely access to information will not give. If you don't have fast access to education information, you can't be educated on what to do. This is my own perspective of looking at issue of budget. First and foremost, I want to repeat, I want the details to also come as soon as possible so that we be informed. Players, analysts, economic analysts, entrepreneurial gurus, and so on and so forth will now be able to see how they can also advise in the implementation across all the boards that we have in Nigeria. I don't want us to preempt. This is hope, yes, because this president's speech is all about hope and reassuring hope, and I want us to swallow it like that. We want to see that there is hope, there is reassurance this year with this budget. I'm not emphasizing on the figures. I'm emphasizing on how the quality of the budget will be implemented. Because the hope last year from the government, from the president's speech, we know that it is not. There's no good performance in the implementation of last year budget. So, but there is hope now. This is 2021. Maybe the figure 1 above 2021 will make it an index that will be able to see the quality of life of Nigerians. At this moment, the quality is not as what we want. Thank you. I think we can continue later on and see how we can also discuss other issues on the budget.
A little bit, and then see how this one plays out very well. You know, budgets normally are assumptions on figures and what we expect to get in order to spend. And the benchmarks have been, you know, so much very important. The parameters and the fiscal assumptions are that out of this we'll be able to get this in order to spend. When you look at the benchmark of $40 per barrel and a daily oil production of 1.86 million barrels, and then the exchange rate of 379 naira to a dollar, do you see these parameters as really achievable?
Yes, I see it as being achievable because, you know, before we, as you rightly said, before we see all these all these figures in papers, there are experts who have worked on it. It's the sincerity of the purpose that it is questionable here. Whatever we are able to sell per barrel as dollars is subject to fluctuations. We know we are going to have fluctuations. There are things you cannot control in an economy. This is an assumption. Better still, whatever we are able to realize from that, let there be sincerity of purpose of implementation. And it is an ongoing thing. This is just January 1st. If we predict that this is how much we are going to be getting, this will be our revenue from oil. What all other sectors of, what all other aspect of revenue? That is where I'm saying that the expert must have sit down, must have done their permutations, calculations and whatever to arrive at this figure. It's achievable if we are sincere. This issue goes beyond intellectual. Sometimes it is ethical. We have to abide by ethical values in Nigeria. We have to support our whatever intellectual we have with morals. That is where I want all the players, including our leaders, including every person that is a leader in his own parastatals and institutions. Institutions must be morally come up in such a way that whatever we have set as a blueprint, we morally, ethically, intellectually, we are able to see the green lights of the outcomes. Where we have adjustment, let us be sincere, declare it that this is what we propose, this is how it is going. Let Nigerians be aware of what is going on, so that adjustment from family will also come in. It's not something that we get all at a point in time. We are not informed. Nigerians these days, what is really causing impatience, as other people have discussed, that the youth these days, they are not impatient, we are not this. At this point, the problem is that lack of information, genuine information. Once we have this information, I can reassure you that whatever we put on paper, even the so-called developed countries, they are not as expert of 100%. But what they are doing is that they are sincere and they carry everybody along on whatever they are doing. Each of these ministries that they are players, they should be responsible to let us have an ongoing feedback as we are moving from January 1st to that 1st of March, that we are concurrently aligning the last year 2020 budget and this year 2021 budget. By aligning it, let there be information. And people, I'm not saying people, players should be able to please morally educate Nigerians and give them the righteous information.
Lalekon, thank you. Just before we get back to the studio, I'd like to sincerely apologize to Professor Mohammed Sani Bello. We by no means want to derobe you of your hard-earned scholarly title of a professor. So do forgive us, Professor. And I like for you to look at this aspect of the budget. If you consider, the to and from the executive to the National Assembly, and when of course the National Assembly passed it, and then between just couple of weeks interval, it was accented to by the president, and now we are having a January to December budget cycle. Does this give us an indication of the new normal in terms of budgeting process?
It's pleasing really to note that we now have budget signed into law within the preceding year, so that we can begin the new year with the new budget. Having said that, I think the relationship between the executive and the legislature has significantly improved since, especially after the 2019, that is during the second term of President Buhari administration. So, and I expect that this kind of relationship is going to continue, and it is going to be good for Nigerians and Nigeria as well. Having said that, let me also comment again on the structure of the budget. One will observe that there's going to be about 41% of the budget spent on recurrent expenditure and about 30% on capital expenditure. Now, given the efforts of the government to cut down on recurrent expenses or cost of governance, I think attention needs to be given to that area, such that at the end of the day, we'll be spending much less than that 41% that has now been appropriated on recurrent expenditure. And because of our real need for quite a number of infrastructure to develop, we will need a situation where the 30% of the budget allocated to capital expenditure is also enhanced. And this can happen during the implementation process. So this is one area. Another area is, just as some other speakers have mentioned, budget impact is something that's supposed to be real. It's not something to be, it's not an abstract. We need to see something tangible happening, either with regards to infrastructure, or when you talk about the recurrent aspect of it, we want to see the welfare of, say, like our security personnel being improved, so that we can also get the benefits of an enhanced security delivery during the course of the budget year. So let me stop here.
Thank you very much. But I wanted you to, because I have this feeling the budget has been accented to. It's now an act. And today we also, within the African continent, we started the single market. Is there a connection? Is there a nexus between a budget and the takeoff of the single African market?
Quite much so, because the budget is meant to enhance development, an all-encompassing development. Now, trade is one important area to achieve development. If you look at the Continental Free Trade Agreement that has been signed by Nigeria and ratified, you see that it's going to open the market, the African market, for Nigerian goods and services. Africa has 55 countries, so Nigeria can export to 54 other countries, that constitute the African market under this agreement. So it's going to be that is expected to translate into more trading activities, whereby people will be able to export their goods, that is our excess production, and then for those who are skilled, who can offer skilled services, will be able to go there, to go to any of the African countries without let or hindrance. And then you will see a situation whereby even our unemployment, the state of our unemployment in Nigeria can reduce, because some of the African countries will really require the services of well-skilled Nigerians who are ready to move to provide labor and services. And then when you look at the production sector, there are certain aspects of production that we really don't consume all that we produce. So those aspects will also, it will be easy to now export those goods, and that portends more revenue into the country, and then more taxes, for businesses who are involved in such export of goods and services. So I think to that extent, you can see a connection between the budget and the issue relating to trading activity as per the new agreement involving all African countries to come into one trading area.
Thank you, Professor Mohamed Sani Bello. Dr. Ken, let's look at these broken barriers. Now, across Africa, from today, trade barriers have been broken. Now we can now trade across the continent. Tariffs have been removed, and there are a lot of them. Do you see this as positive, really, looking at the size, the quality, and the quantity of some economies in Africa in comparison to others? Nigeria, for instance, compared to a very tiny country somewhere, and of course our GDP and their own, and our manufacturing capacity and their own, our market and their own. Do you see this really being really beneficial to all members?
Every trade agreement has its costs and benefits. And also, we must realize the fact that that's the reason why we negotiate trade, so that there'll be symbiotic, if you like, relationship in the transaction of the trade or in the implementation of that trade and enforcement of the rules guiding such trade, to the extent that citizens or the human beings, the population, would not suffer as a result of that trade agreement. Now, having said this, the AFCFTA has come to play and then it's taken off today. But that does not mean that countries that are weak or perceived to be weak will be losing. There is, there is comparative advantage for every country. And therefore, what every country would need to do is to identify that advantage, that value addition, where you can be able to compete. And in doing that, you can now leverage on that and then jump the scale. But in terms of the advantage for us cumulatively as a union, as Africa, I think this has really signified that we can really handle things ourselves because we have missed the line for a long time. 1.2 billion market.
You know, Ken,
yes.
because we have a very short time to look at this, briefly. There is no doubt about the benefit of this. We've talked over and over about this, even on this program. Yes, indeed, having a very large trading bloc, gives the continent an advantage, in terms of trade volumes and economic benefits. But let us look at, the legal binding, rules. How well, because this market has taken off today, which means now if you have all the necessary, documents, if you have the product, exportable products, you can do business. That's what it means. But what about the rules binding those trading business? Nationals would always protect their national interests in the areas of health, security, and all that. And, one gap in ECOWAS was the fact that member countries interpreted, some of the rules differently based on their national interests. The concept of inadmissible citizens, for instance, has been generating issues. Do we understand? I mean, Nigerian participants, do we understand these trade rules explicitly?
I don't think I'll be doing Nigerians good if I sit down here to say that Nigerians have understood the rules guiding the AFCFTA now. That's improper. But I think this might take some processes. There are quite a number of rules. The AFCFTA is a rule on itself, but then apart from that, you also have protocols on different axes. For instance, you have the dispute settlement mechanism protocol, you have the rules of origin protocol, Don't also forget that we are going to have a services protocol in that. We also, I mean, there are quite a lot.
So what would happen now if they don't understand these rules? So what would happen now?
That's actually a fear I have. However, I am not sure that all will be liberalized today. It is a gradual, progressive liberalization that we are engaging into. But my problem, I think where we should be looking at is our preparedness in terms of port operation. In terms of, there's a question you raised, very important question. For us as Nigerians, we should be asking ourselves, do we have the capacity to export, even though we have very big muscle in terms of financial capacity, in terms of the banks of Nigerians located in every part of the continent? We also have capacity in terms of production, manufacturing. However, looking at our ports, look at Tinkan, look at Wharf in Lagos. Look at the infrastructure there. Look at the roads. Look at the fact that, trailers and containers will be there and, even getting to overtime cargo. Do we have that capacity to do ourselves good and benefit from the value added by the AFC?
I think we should just get a closing remark from Professor Lalekon, who is a professor in entrepreneurship, and they are key, within this single market opening that we've
and maybe that would be in 30 seconds if possible.
Yes, definitely. Professor Lalekon. Yes, what's in it in this single market opportunity for your... Please go ahead.
So I'm glad that giving me this few seconds to take. I really appreciate the agreement signed. It's a plus, it's an opportunity. So, but the understanding of the agreement is what I'm canvassing for. Please, they should divulge the information so that we can sensitize all our stakeholders in SMEs. They are ready, they are active. Nigerians are not lazy. And I believe that with this opportunity, we will be able to get ventilation because we are sweating already. So Nigerians, SMEs, they will tap the opportunity. Era of AIDS is gone. Era of trade is what we have. Technical aid, aiding other countries in Africa is gone. I'm very happy. This is the period I'm waiting for. Now let everybody now tap the opportunities. But the rules of engagement must be given to everyone. Let us be informed, educated, and at the same time have access to capital. Thank you so much.
So, Sakaria Olalekon, you've gone beyond my 30 seconds, but I'll pardon you for that anyway. You've taken 45 seconds. Nonetheless, we must really thank you for, being part of this discussion this morning, this very first day. So thank you so much. And Professor Muhammad Sani Bello, who is an associate professor, that is, of accounting and financial control, Kaduna State University, we thank you so much for being part of this program this morning. Ken Okoha, you've been a regular here, at least in these recent days. It's our pleasure. We thank you so much for being part of this program.
Thank you very, very much.
And for all of you, to all of you and all Nigerians out there, have a very beautiful, 2021. It's a new dawn, it's a new year, it's a new day. It's new almost everywhere. So, take care of yourself and be part of the new Nigeria in 2021. I am Yusuf Nadabu Suman, and that was Good Morning Nigeria for today.
And I'm Claire Delabu Abdurazak. As always, please do keep safe, ensure you abide with the COVID-19 safety protocols, non-pharmaceutical protocols. And from all of us here, GMN crew, and indeed the entire staff of NTA, management and staff of NTA, we wish you a prosperous 2021 year.